If you like making your own brews and showing up to FNM to fight metas for Modern or Pioneer, you've come to the right place. Now let's head to the gameplay. The whole idea of the deck is based around this enchantment called Proft Eidetic Memory, buffing up cheap 1 mana cost creatures like Darcy, Delver of Secrets, 2-drops like the Fairy Dragon, and more. You'll be able to see more gameplay and how it works here soon. To start out with here, we got turn 1 Darcy here into play. We're passing the turn. Then it seems like my opponent is playing some type of vile deck. So basically his deck's based around creatures. What I decided to do is drop the enchantment of the hour, which buffs up my creatures for every card that I draw besides the first card that I draw during my turn. At this point, I still don't know what my opponent is playing, but it seems like he's playing an ally deck. This took me by surprise, because I don't see a lot of ally decks in my FNM, which was kind of refreshing to see. First, I played Ledger Shredder, then I played Consider, triggering both my Ledger Shredder and my Darcy, trying to get Delirium. Then, during my combat, Proft's Eidetic Memory triggers, giving one of my creatures 1/1 counters. I decided to put them on Darcy, and it looks like I'm ahead at this time. During his turn, he puts down another ally, buffing both of his allies here at the same time, still keeping his Aether Vial untapped. Before combat damage, he decides to put in another ally, buffing the ally that attacked, and then passing the turn. At this point, I put another Ledger Shredder, triggering both Ledger Shredders after I play another Delver of Secrets here. I decided to pitch just that dress down. Then it was time to attack. I decided to give my 1/1 counters to my Ledger Shredder that's already in play, and I swung for the fences there. Took him down to 1. I thought I had the win, but it turns out that my opponent had a protection from blue in his hand, which means I couldn't block, and he swung for exactsies. So, yep, that's game 1. Notice how I said game 1 when it's best of 3. That's because this is my first MTG video, and I forgot to basically record the first match, so sorry about that. So the next game is against a fellow brewer. It's going to be a fun match. I actually don't do that bad in this game. I get pretty lucky, but I start out with a Delver of Secrets. The secrets he will tell, how they do not like to flip. He plays a weird card, literally a weird. That's the card. But then he gut shots my Delver of Secrets. So goodbye, Delver. I play a Ledger Shredder, and then pass the turn. See what he's got. He played Keen Fiend. It seems like this guy went way back and is playing a turbo type of deck. I'm a huge fan of this right now. Of course, I like fellow brewers, even though I'm using Darcy and Ledger Shredder. But you know what? Izzet Phoenix and Izzet whatever the hell that dragon's called, they're considered bad decks, quotations. Anyways, I played an Eidetic Memory enchantment, triggering the Darcy and the Ledger Shredder, and put 3/1 counters. They play a Swift Spear, doing a ground rift, so I can't block, doing a bunch of triggers, eating one of those triggers, eating one of those spells with their weird to put 2/1 counters. The prowess and the prowess on the Keen Fiend activate. I decide not to block. I get a Manamorphose of myself, bin the land, add 2 mana, go off with Consider, drawing, triggering the Darcy and the Ledger Shredder, deciding what to bin. Oh look, another Proft's Eidetic Memory, but we need Darcy to be online, so we bin that card. We still have 1 draw spell in our hand, triggering the Darcy. Decide to put that in the graveyard. Opting, we want that Manamorphose for sure. I'm just counting to see if I can play a Bedlam Reveler, and I cannot, but we do another Metamorphose, getting a Force of Negation, triggering Darcy, swinging with Darcy, leaving back the Ledger Shredder. Pretty cool stuff. Then they decide to main phase a Grip Shot for 1, triggering his creatures, swinging for the fences. I decided that it's time to block, so I block the Weird. They don't have any other spells to destroy me, and I win the first game. Now for the sideboard plan here, we're taking all of our ops. We're bringing in the Dress Downs. We're taking out the Forces of Negation. Didn't seem really relevant during that game. So now I'm hot and bothered, hot and ready. They go with another Weird. I decide to lead with the Delver, not the Darcy, just because I'm afraid of those gut shots and I need Darcy around. Also, I would like to flip my gosh darn Delver. But you know what? It doesn't happen. I guess my prediction was right. They destroy my Delver and swing for 1. I decided to play Otawara, play my little Sprite Dragon, swing for 1. Now we're at even there. Pass a turn, and I guess my opponent didn't get too lucky. They got stuck on 1 land there, unfortunately. They swing for 1. Now it's my turn. I play my Darcy. I decide to go off with a Consider, binning the Delver, binning the land, fetching, and then going off again with a Consider. We want to leave that at top. We draw it, and then we swing for 3 with our Sprite Dragon. They bolt our Sprite Dragon, sad face. Unfortunate. Then they swing for 1. It seems like they are still stuck on 1 land. Unlucky. We play another Sprite Dragon. We play our enchantment there that makes this deck super awesome. And then since we drew 2 cards, or yep, 1 card, sorry, we swing and hit real nice. Again, they're just trying to race me here on their turn. They swing for 1 and they play a Darcy there. At this point, we're just 2 ahead. We decided to go off. We draw with an opt. We bin that Spell Pierce. We bin the Delver. And then we give all the triggers to the Darcy. And we swing out. Opponent's at 4. They're stuck on 1 land. There's really nothing much that they can't do unless they chain a bunch of Metamorphos. Now this game is super fun. The next game is against Mono Black Control. How do you know it's mono black? Because I play Swamp. Actually, that's just I didn't know it was mono black until they played 2 basic swamps, and then they played a map. At this point, I actually didn't know what was going on, but I was excited to see what this opponent had in his tank. I played the Profts, Idyllic, draw a card off of it, give Delver. Of course, he hasn't flipped yet, because that's my luck with freaking Delvers. Never flip Delvers. They call me Never Flip Delvers. Oh look, I didn't get to flip a Delver. But I do get to play this opt, play a Consider. I decide to bin that, and play a Darcy instead. Now we give all our counters to Delver again, hopefully that he'll eventually flip. They crack their map. And at this point, I think I know what they've got. See, since they got the Citadel, it's definitely Control. And they get my my Nemesis, Dauthi Void Walker. Now Darcy has no chance of going live unless I destroy it. And of course, I don't really run any interaction with creatures in this deck main board. But at this point, they're at 7, and we're just wanting to race at this point. They play Karn the Great Creator. I'm pooping my pants because I know they have a bunch of interaction, but I left my Force of Negation up just in case. So I decided to counter that Force of Negation, triggering the Darcy, just to see if we can bin something that's not relevant. Then they play my worst nemesis, number 2, which should be number 1, Bowmasters. We do not like Bowmasters in this deck for obvious reasons, but if you don't know what a Bowmaster does, every time we draw a card, besides the first card in my turn, he deals 1 damage and he grows his orc army. At this point, I decided to tell my opponent that I messed up royally because I didn't consider turn 1 letting that orcish Bowmaster grow and then swinging for lethal. So I decided to just pack it in and begin my sideboard. At this point, I always take out my ops, bring in stuff that's relevant. I decided to bring in dress downs just in case they play Dothy or things like that, which in retrospect, I still didn't really understand the deck as much, but I didn't want to deal with Bowmaster, so I brought in the dress downs. All right. We go turn 1, Delver's Secrets. Hopefully this guy will flip by turn 2. That's the point, right? We want him to do that. And he flips. Look at that. He flipped. Then we play Delver number 2, and we pass the turn. Then he makes a sacrifice one. Of course, I'm going to sacrifice the one that's not flipped. I miss a land drop, which is super unfortunate, but we go in and swing for 4. At this point is not the most explosive of turns. We're not going as fast as possible. They destroy my Delver and then gain some life there. Fortunately, I was able to top deck a land and top deck the enchantment, growing my Sprite Dragon to a 5/5 and swinging for 5. Unfortunate for me, they draw a ring, so they gain protection for a turn. I play my Ledger Shredder and then Delver Secrets, triggering the enchantment and Ledger Shredder. Growing my stuff. Things happen. He draws more cards with his ring. At this point, he better do something, better destroy my field, or else he's going to die to his own ring. He has Cabal Coffer, so he's making a lot of mana. He destroys my Ledger Shredder, which is understandable. Then he Thought Eats me. He takes away my dress down, leaving me with another card that draws a card. My Delver, of course, doesn't flip, so I decide to play the other enchantment. Unfortunately, the enchantment is a legendary, so legendary rule. I can only keep one. That'll be busted. At upkeep, his ring is at 2, which will deal 2 damage to him if he doesn't remove it or replace it or do anything. Then he draws 3 more cards. I have a Spell Pierce ready. He wasn't able to answer. Then I run it back. Now this game was a nail biter. Put in a Delver Secrets, pass. Delver Secrets is gonna die, of course. That's his job, is to die. Turn 2, played a Darcy. Then they Cling to Dust to gain some life, I believe. Then at the end of the turn, we played Consider. We bin that Darcy. Then we bin the Spell Pierce. Then we pass a turn. But we do not see a land. That's what we were binning, because we wanted to, hit the curve and hopefully hit lands, but unfortunately we weren't that lucky. But we have a Metamorphosis in our hand, so hopefully next turn we are able to hit the land drop. There's Karn the Creator. They get Liquid Metal Coating, which, if you don't know what he's trying to do, he's trying to blow my stuff up, okay? It's not very nice how he's trying to blow my stuff up, but he's doing it. I'm able to play my enchantment after the Metamorphose, play a Delver, main phase 2, pass the turn. Trying to put some pressure, hoping that he doesn't blow up my field. He gets Cabal Coffers out, so he's making a lot of mana. He blows one thing up and he plays another Karn. At this point, I'm really hoping that he doesn't get enough mana to get an Eldrazi or anything that is in his sideboard that's gonna mess me up, but he gets an Ensnaring Bridge, which is also really problematic for me since the only way I can deal with it is Otawara, which bounces things. So at this point, I'm just going all out. I swing at him with one of my creatures and then one at Karn to kill it. At this point, he's got a lot of mana again because of Cabal Coffers. He plays his Ensnaring Bridge and triggers my Ledger Shredder. Then he plays Bowmasters, my best friend of all time. He deals 1 damage to me. At this point, I'm just trying to draw that Otawara, so I play the Dress down so the Orcish Bowmaster doesn't trigger a bunch, and play all my Dress spells that I can. Thankfully, I'm able to draw into the Otawara, and at this point, I'm just filtering, making sure that the next cards that I draw are relevant or of any kind. Hopefully, drawing into a counter spell, anything that could help me in the long run. Then they play a massive spell which lets them exile top cards of a library, and then they can play those spells using their mana as any mana. So they decide to use target me, then use my spells. They use Preordain, and then they use another cantrip. One of them triggers Ledger Shredder, which triggers Orcish Bowmasters, pinging me, growing his army. At the end of turn, I fetch, which is not the end of turn. It's still during his main phase. My bad. All right. At this point, I can freely bounce his Ensnaring Bridge since he has no mana, and then swing for the game. It was a crazy 3 games, but this is the deck that I've built. Again, these were just casual matches. I play mostly paper. I bring this ideas to FNM and get shit on most of the time, but it's fun doing this regardless. So if you'd like to see more content on this, just keep watching my videos. All right, bye.